Paul, pleasure to see you. It's the first time that we've touched base since you took over at Derby, 6 months in. How's it going?
Yeah, good, I think. All right, thank you. Enjoyed it. Got most of our messaging across now, so only got like 10 games potentially left. So all downhill really. Get through Easter and we've survived it. But yeah, good, thanks. Obviously took some time. It took, if I'm truly honest, I was grieving my old job a little bit because I'd been there so long and over 2 periods. So that was difficult for me. But had really good support here and really enjoyed it. And the best thing is the players are really good and bought into us, so it made the transition a lot easier.
The club that you knew Derby County to be from the outside, is it the same that you found it on the inside?
Cool, that's a good question. The Derby County I believed I knew prior to coming isn't the same Derby County now, I don't think, which is fair to say. So there are still remnants of Derby County of old, but I feel like it's I'm not saying a new club, a fresh new club and everything, I don't think it's that. And I think it's got some battle scars, but I do feel that everyone at the club, obviously including the owner, David, are trying to push the club back in the right direction. And it is full of really good people. And when you're a manager or a player or a fan of another club, it's sort of pretty prevalent in football. You dislike every other club. I think that's fair to say, because you just love your own club, don't you? And you can't see anything good in anything else. But it's only when you come and work at other clubs or play at other clubs, you realise that there's good people everywhere. And there's some really good people here who are desperate for success. And when we first came in, I felt like they'd been through, obviously through bad times, through last year, not knowing where the club was going, if there was going to be a club. And there was a little bit of PTSD in the building. I'm not making a mockery of it. I honestly think that people turned up every day not sure if their job was going to be there. And then once they do get a bit of sunlight, then the management change, a whole new team comes in. And so I understand the difficulties from their point of view. But it is a really good club with an unbelievable fan base. I don't think I was really expecting 6,000 people away from home. That was
stunning, isn't it?
That is a shock. So I've really enjoyed that part of it, and just trying to get them back to where everyone wants them to be.
With regards, we'll talk about Rotherham in detail, but you so synonymous with that place over such a long period of time.
Yeah.
So why Derby then? Why was Derby the one that turned your head enough to say thank you, but we move on?
Yeah, a few things really. One of them was the owner. I mean, I loved my owner at my previous club, but I just really liked the owner here, and he was like, I can't buy anything hard sells. If I went and bought a car and someone followed me out, God, I can knock something off, I can do this, do that. It's not for me. If I go into a clothes shop and someone's following me around with a tape measure, it's not for me. And it wasn't a hard sell. David just said he wanted me to do it. These are the reasons. I had an opportunity to, because the club was new really, I had an opportunity to have my culture, how I wanted to run the club. I had a lot of, and I think with jobs now, if you change club, you inherit a lot. I know I inherit a lot here, but there was a lot of change going on, so I could be involved in some of the change. So I think it was a lot to do with that, and selfishly, and this is selfish, another couple of reasons, I didn't have to move. I know that sounds really lazy, but all my family is settled, and
that's a big part of it, though.
Yeah, I want to drive. Yeah, I want to drive home. I want to see my kids. I want to see my wife. I want to see my dog. So that made it more appealing. And then really, I had a couple of people speak to me about it when it first happened, and they were saying, "Look, I'm not saying that it will be me or us, as in my team, but sooner or later, Derby will get back to where they want to be, and it'd be nice to play a part of the journey. It might be with us, it might not be with us, but it's nice for a challenge like that." And I just felt that this had a real opportunity if we got success, and that is a very difficult thing to get, but if we're fortunate to go up, then I think we could be competitive in the league above and try and get out of the next league. I mean, I know it's a long way away, but that's sort of where it went. And I'd had an amazing time, obviously, at Rotherham. I was still in contact with virtually everyone there. All the staff there were mine, or they're not now, obviously, but they were all mine. I'd employed everybody. I'd employed every player, all the recruitment team, everything about the place was mine. Or I'd played a part in. So it was difficult to leave, but this just felt like there wasn't going to be a better opportunity, put it that way. There wouldn't have been a better club coming for us at our stage in our careers who would let us run with it and play the way we wanted to play. So it just felt that of all the other times, people have chewed my ear, so to speak, this was the only one that really attracted me.
The reflection there, I suppose, if you are a person in the street looking at a manager of a championship club comes out to go into a League One club. But I remember speaking to Alex Neil about this when he was at Sunderland, talking about people saying Sunderland are a League One club, but his technique was, well, we're in League One, so we're a League One club. But I'm talking about the broader aspects of the club, because it's a huge football club, isn't it? Footballing institution, if you like. Is that part of the buy-in from your side?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I can't say that when we first turned up the first game, I think it hit me the enormity of the football club. Obviously, I'm not an idiot. I appreciate how big all the clubs are and how many fans turn up. But even just turn up on the first match day and your car parking space was the closest to the door, and you go to the door and there's 3 people to open the door for you. And I'm thinking, wow, this is a different level. So I was aware of that, and I think because I just thought that if this team got up, and they've got some very good individuals in the building, like, the McGoldricks, the Houahans, and the players that I knew and I tried to sign in the past, frustratingly. I just thought that...
Got them in the end, though.
got them, indirectly, but got them in the end. But I just thought that, this was a club that potentially we could take it a bit further. And I know that sounds rude to my previous club, but that's my honest opinion, that I had more of an opportunity to go again, really. And I honestly believe that after managed there for 6 years with all my team behind me, it comes to a natural end sooner or later. Because in fairness, if I didn't move on, eventually I'd get moved on. Mm-hmm. So I always thought that I wanted to leave through the front door, not through the back. And, the club got good compensation for us. Everything was amicable. I left on really good terms with the owner. And, they've got a good management team in now and they're flourishing. So it just felt the timing was right, and we are coming into a massive club, and it was an honour to think that this club employed us. I remember on the first day I did an interview with a radio station, and I had to do it on the pitch on match day, and the sun was shining. All I could think about, well, I wish my dad was here. I wish my dad could see this. He'd be amazed that a lad who played non-league football to the age of 23 was being employed by Derby County. So it was an honour, but I didn't take it because I was flattered. I took it because I honestly thought we could help, and it would be a real good opportunity, and it should be fun. I want to enjoy my life. This job's difficult as enough. You want to enjoy the journey, and I honestly thought we'd have a good crack, and obviously I've got good staff. We'd have a right good go.
Do you think? I mean, just to pick up what you said there about coming out the front door.
Yeah.
Do you think, as a manager, maybe subconsciously or consciously, would be your MO if you look towards how the rest of your career might pan out? I know we're throwing it forward quite a way, but staying ahead of that curve, because we know it's
always trying to get out the front door.
Because it's the most precarious of professions, isn't it? As you say, you either move on or be moved on.
Yeah, and no one wants to be sacked. Obviously, no one. And it could happen here. I could get sacked. I could lose the next 5 games. There could be an absolute slide, and the fans turn, and you're gone. In the dream is you always move on, but I feel like. Now, if we got promoted here and then a League One came after me, a League One team came after me, I probably wouldn't leave out the front door, because there's still unfinished business here to try and get them up again. So it does depend on the club where you're at, and I was lucky that I had that opportunity. Not dissimilar to Gareth leaving Wycombe, really. He'd done brilliant at Wycombe, been there forever, and he just thought it was an opportunity he couldn't miss, and he saw that I'm not saying he took Wycombe as far as they could, that's not fair, but he probably thought his career would have a better opportunity by leaving the QPR, and it's not dissimilar to mine.
You mentioned Gareth, is that a man and a manager that you've touched base with, you keep in contact with? Is he? Because you said, the similarities are
there are,
striking.
I mean, in fairness, I think his last game might have been against us when they kindly beat us. I mean, looking back, he didn't have to try that hard, did he? He could have just left on a defeat, and
we might stay in touch with him.
We might have stayed in touch, yeah. But I had a good chat with him, not about. I mean, he did ask me about how I felt, and his assistant was talking about the summer and how I felt, and the pressures of trying to get up at the end of last season and that. So we had a good chat. And obviously I sent him a text congratulating him when he got the job. But I like to pretend that all managers speak to each other, but they don't. They don't really. I speak to a couple of people who are out of work, and it's only when I see them, and that's why it's the good old come in for a drink after. Yeah. Because through the week you've got enough to worry about without speaking to other managers. But it is similar, and obviously I wish him all the success in the world.
You said about coming out of Rotherham as a little period of grieving, which I don't think I've never heard it being described as that before. But that then does reflect the special bond that you had at a place which you were synonymous with, and the fact that the way that it came about, that term reluctant manager that's been used with regards to the man that was in the right place at the right time. I understand that, but you've still got to be able to step forward and take the opportunity. And it's fair to say you did that with bells on. Is that? I mean, can you encompass what it meant to be in Rotherham and with Rotherham for all that time for you?
Cool. Emotionally exhausting is probably the best way to put it. Like, I'm blessed that, I brought Richie in, I had Hammy, I had Polly, then I had Andy, my goalie coach. So in fairness, although it's me talking to you, it's all our successes. But, I'd spent so long being there as a player, and I loved it. I loved my time being there as a player, and I didn't, obviously, and this has been, you probably edit all this out, but when I took the caretaker role, it wasn't something I enjoyed. It was really difficult. I found it really lonely. I've said it loads of times, I weren't sleeping, I was spitting blood, I wasn't eating, I wasn't training, I was in a bad place, but all I kept trying to do was just get to the end of the season. And then when I got offered the job full time, I didn't want it because, you've spoke to managers quite a lot. You see the side that we can't really talk about too openly, and it's really difficult. It ruins your family life completely. So all that was really difficult. And then obviously I thought the chairman of Rotherham, Tony Stewart, kindly talked me into it and said, look, don't live in regret, Paul, which is ironic because I sort of left on the same premise really. But don't live in regret, like, give it a go. And if it isn't for you, then you haven't lost anything. So when we took it on and we got promoted, and it just felt amazing. And then obviously the difficulties for clubs our side in the Championship are prevalent now. You just see the same similar teams in the bottom half of the Champ. So it's always been difficult. But I loved it, but it definitely took a lot out of me. And I'm not saying I don't care about this club as much, because I do, but I don't have such history with it. But I do have the benefit of leaving here and driving home. I don't walk into a Derby fan wherever I shop, although there seems to be a lot of them. I don't listen to the local radio. I haven't made the mistake of ever going on Twitter and looking at what the fans think of me. But when I was at Rotherham, I started and it sounds awfully egotistical, but I started right in the middle of a storm really, that I wanted to see if the fans could not turn on me, just appreciate what I was trying to do. And that is the biggest mistake ever. I preach to the lads all the time about, please don't go on Twitter as a footballer, because there's always going to be one person who doesn't like you.
It's very easy to find.
And it is. And I appreciate it now. If I type my name in now, if I typed in hashtag worn out, there'd be billions of them for years. So I did find it emotionally draining, but rewarding at the same time. Like I said, I knew all the board really well. I knew the chief exec really well. The recruitment team were all people that we'd put in place. I knew them really well. It was like Scotty, who I played with, all the staff were mine, the fitness coach, everything. All the players I'd signed, begged them to come to the club and buy into the club. So obviously to leave all that, what was really difficult. And hopefully we'll be able to build something similar but different here. But emotionally, I think that's what the hardest bit for me was. And even now when I lose, I'm not a good loser, I can't shake it off. But it felt an even bigger responsibility at Rotherham, because a lot of my best friends, because I've lived in Yorkshire for 20 years now, were Rotherham fans. So in the way that they were really supportive, and it sounds awful now, I would get, if we won, I would probably get 150 texts after every game, and which I'd always reply. And if we lost, I'd probably get about 40 texts of friends, sponsors or whatever the case may be, directors or whatever, saying, oh, unlucky today and all that. And it was lovely, but exhausting, best way to put it. Whereas here, if we lose, I can get in my car, I can go home, I can still be difficult to live with, but I don't have, loads of phone calls to make, loads of texts to reply to. I can just concentrate with my staff on the next game. And that's sort of the main difference between it. The emotional link was powerful, and it definitely empowered me to hopefully empower the players to be the best version of themselves. But it definitely took something out of me. It definitely took a lot out of me emotionally that, I joke that it's took days off my life, but I think it has, unfortunately.
The bit that really stands out for me when you're saying that is, and we spoke about it at the time, was making up the games off the back of COVID. Rotherham having games to stay in the Championship, all these games in hand, and it felt like we saw you every couple of days, and bless our reporters. Hi Paul, I'm going to ask you the same things. And you were always, like you are today, very genial, lots of time for the people involved there. But when you say about emotion, when you say about that kind of exhausting side of it, that's when you see it. And that's just a subjective comment on the person that I know and the person that I saw as the manager. And when you say emotional and draining and situations such as that, we see it. But you've got to keep going to the well. Who picks the manager on Wednesday? Because players, all their eyes are looking at you. Come on, help us, give us something, get us through it.
I had a conversation this morning about when you do interviews after the game, and like, say for example, the team lose 4-0 on Saturday, and you're thinking, and you're thinking like, I don't want to criticise the players too much because I need to keep them on board. But if I don't criticise them at all, the fans think I don't know what I'm talking about. But if I don't criticise them at all, the fans are going to think, well, he's not the man. So even when you do press, you're constantly, I'm not lying, but I'm constantly tiptoeing through, the grass. And in fairness, like obviously being a reporter, and I've seen you loads of times, haven't I? But you see when the interview ends, I say, like, thanks a lot, mate. Yeah. And you see me walk away and I'm like, beat, aren't I? And you can even see me when I walk away and I might just sit down on my own for just 2 minutes. It's absolutely exhausting. I appreciate it's the job we choose and all that, but there is a human element to it that it takes a lot out of you, and it does. And that's why, like we joke all the time, I said to the lads the other day, like, you've only got this amount of games left, this amount of training days left, and the summer's coming. And you just crave to get some time off just to recharge. That
reluctance that you said about taking the job at Rotherham, you now come in here as a headhunted manager, coach, head coach, the boss. Is that a different feeling entirely?
Yeah, maybe. It's probably empowered me a little bit because, rightly or wrongly or whatever, comedy version of it, that at Rotherham, although we were part of the management team for 6 years nearly, I still think people possibly saw me as Warne the player or the fitness coach, and like when something went wrong, it'd be like, oh my God, he doesn't get it tactically or whatever. It's probably true. I don't know, but we'll try our best. But getting headhunted for getting seen from outside your own club that you've done something good, I don't know. It just seems more empowering, really. So we came here with a real confidence, and obviously we've known the league for quite a bit, but. Yeah, so it definitely I definitely feel more managerial here than at my previous job, or less of a fraud possibly, because we had massive success and we loved it, and it will always be a massive part of my life. And I felt like we left smiling. We'd started the season really well. It was a good team. So we left there smiling, but we come here as like a management team ready for a new challenge. And it's quite refreshing because 6 years as a player is a long time, but 6 years as a manager at one club. And obviously, I'm telling you something you don't know, obviously, but I took the team down. I took the team down twice. The first one doesn't count. That's not my fault. But the other two, we've done everything we could not to, obviously. And we whether we weren't good enough, I can't say. But we always bounced back. But it took a massive hit on us. So with all that, and for people outside of the club to appreciate what we did is quite empowering, and it's a good feeling for us, and it gives us confidence.
And that sense of belonging and being the man that they're after. I mean, if you had any kind of inferiority complex to sit in a chair that Frank Lampard, Philip Cocu, Wayne Rooney, Liam Senior, of course, has been in before you, does that ever cross a manager's mind going into a new club, or do you take it as you see it from the moment you walk in?
I mean, I'm more, in fairness, that didn't bother me in any way. Although I do like a few stories about what different cars they had and all that. It seems like a different world. I'm more sort of empowered by the whole Cloughy thing. That sort of blows my mind. When you walk around Pride Park and there's photos up, and that's sort of a bit spiritual for me, really. That sort of makes the club seem massive. But like what I also know is about managers, and I know there's some really good ones, some con men, and some, in the nicest possible way, that, you've got to judge them by, what they did, really. And not by people's names, but in fairness, they all had success. I mean, I took out Liam, done really well getting this team together in the summer. Got a lot of time for Liam. I still speak to two of the staff who went with him. Really good people. And in fairness to Wayne, when we got relegated, and not many people know this, he phoned me the day after to say like how sorry he felt when we lost at Cardiff. And in fairness, I didn't believe it was him. So he rang and it came up, and it was just not a very good number. Yeah. And because I thought Wayne Rooney's number would be 10, 10, 10, 10 or something, do you know what I mean? And it was just a random agent number sort of thing. And I'm thinking 7218218 or something. Like, who's that? And then he left me a voicemail, and then I phoned back, and I still didn't believe it was him. So I asked him a question that only me and him knew the answer to, what I said to him after the game when I shook hands with him. He knew it. So it was kind of him. So so I appreciate, the managers they've had in the past and the players they've had in the past, and they have signed unbelievable players from abroad who've had unbelievable success. But this is a different Derby County in a different financial climate that we're trying to get them back to the top.
That is the key thing, I think, about this part of the country, the East Midlands, and given perhaps Derby fans looking over at the City Ground and looking over at Leicester and seeing where they find themselves, there's a motivation there, surely, to pull them
and
up
in
by
fairness,
the bootstraps,
but in fairness as well, mate, as you well know, there's like Leicester have had bad times, Forest have been down there. Like, you know, more often than not, the good teams get themselves back to the top, however long that takes. I remember like Sheffield have been back to the Premier League recently, but I think they were in League One for like 4 years. You know, Sheffield Wednesday haven't bounced straight back. It isn't easy to get out of this league, and it's not. I'm not saying it's easier to get out of the Champ. It isn't, but you just got to take little steps. And in fairness to all the other teams around here who are flourishing, you know, come the end of the season though, you don't know where they're going to be. They could both get dragged into it. So I do appreciate that, and I do appreciate the fan base here. They've been brilliant with all me and the staff and the players, and how they support home and away. What I find odd, I think the other day I met, when we came out of MK Don's game, we had to pull over because we've left someone's keys in the bag. It's a nightmare. Anyway, I met some Irish.
Kids, isn't it?
Yeah, it was literally. Oh my God, we thought we got a flyer, and then we had to pull over because Richie's wife's bag was in our car. It's complicated. Anyway, so I met some Irish Rams, and then the other week I met some who'd come in from America, and that's what is bigger here than any club I've ever played at, is that there's like an international interest in Derby. And it always seemed like when we had a cup game, every game seemed to be on Sky or, you know, one of the TV channels, because there's such an interest in it. So that makes it feel like a big job. That
as well, you talk about the fan base, the away support. I mean, the home support. We saw games at Pride Park when Derby County was in a state, for want of a better word, where there was a real show of togetherness and solidarity. They're now coming to be entertained, to enjoy themselves, to appreciate the match day routine, aren't they? And it feels like you've tapped into something that brings thousands and thousands of people in the droves.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, that's down to the players, isn't it? But what I would say is that, you know, last year with the points deduction and all that, and the fans kept turning up, it's a bit like having friends, and like they're always good on, oh, do you want to go for a night out? Brilliant, brilliant. Do you want to do this? Do you want to go on holiday? Yeah, brilliant. And however, I've gone through a bad time. I lost my father, or, you know, my girlfriend's left me, or something, and the real friends step up, and you think, wow, actually, I look at this lad. I've always been friendly with him, but I have a newfound respect for him. And I think that's with the fan base. When went through bad times, it's easy to be a fan of Man City at the moment, respectfully, because they're winning every week, and it's great. It's the fans who turn up week in, week out when things aren't so great. And at the moment, the team have been doing really well. It doesn't mean that will continue, but hopefully it will. But what is amazing about football in this country is there's 28,000 people coming to League 3. Like, I don't think that happens anywhere else in the world. And it's not just ours, you know, there's other massive teams in this league, like Ipswich and Sheffield Wednesday and that. And it's just a really good league this year, full of really big teams. And
lots of Premier League pedigree, isn't there, in League One at the moment?
Yeah, definitely. But the fans follow it because the fans want success, and the fans want to see their team do well. And unfortunately, at the moment, you know, if you look at the top 10, there's some really big teams doing really well.
And from that sense of what the players are bringing to the table for you, David McGoldrick is a name, obviously, that stands out given the season that he's having. Is this an Indian summer? Is it a prolonged purple patch that he finds himself in? Because you're getting something extra out of a player that I knew as a younger player. He's now, you'd say, a veteran, isn't he?
Yeah, he's done really well for me. In fairness, I mean, I've always liked Didsy from afar, and I spoke to one of my mates, Alan Neal, who was at Sheffield, about trying to sign him previous to me coming here. And I didn't realise how hard he worked, because it's an awful thing to say, but it's the truth. I didn't watch him play every week, but I always just used to think, wow, he's a talented player. And in that Sheffield team especially, I mean, I saw him at Ipswich as well, but he finished his time at Ipswich, released on a free, and then Sheffield United revigorated him, or played him a lot more, and he always had a free role, and he was always amazing.
There's a presumption with a free role.
Yeah, there is.
Luxury,
luxury, exactly. Yeah, he had like a real free role. He didn't have to tackle back, didn't have to do anything like that. So in my head, and I only saw him play live a few times, I convinced myself that was him. Whereas since I've seen him and trained with him, and like, in fairness, I had dinner with him today. I sat there having my food with him today, talking to him as a bloke. He's a great human being. He's a really good kid. Whatever preconceptions I had of him, that he was just get the ball and score from 30 yards and that's all he does. It's definitely not him. He encourages all the younger lads, brilliant pro, the lads look up to him. He's always in the gym. I hate to admit it, it's not hate to admit it, he's got a significantly better body than my pathetic thing, which I wasn't aware of, really. Like, in my head, I didn't think he did. But it's just not his goals. He's just like leads the line, and, he's really pally with Colo as well up top. And, he's been really good. And it's just not his goals. I just think the team are better when he's in it. And that, you can't say that about every player. Like, all players have their part and their role, but Didsy's another level, and we're blessed to have him.
It seems to me, from when we've spoken before, it's as important, if not more, what the person's like, as well as the player. It helps, obviously, if you're as talented as a McGoldrick. But the likes of Curtis Davis, Conor Hourihane, the younger lads, the likes of Lewis Sibley, Jesse Knight, you've got a real mixture that, whenever we've spoken about your plays, there's a real affection that comes out of you when you're almost fatherly, if you like.
Yeah, I am.
Is that something that's important to you?
No, I have to like people, and in fairness, they have to like me, because we spend a lot of time together. So my theory is, like, if I can't get on with a player and I meet him a couple of times, I'm just not feeling it. I'm not going to feel it when his times are bad. He isn't going to feel what I'm saying. I'm not going to be able to tap into him and motivate him. So although he's an amazing player, he's just not for me at the club I'm at. That's as simple as that. So, for example, Tony Springett, I signed from Norwich, who had his first start, in fairness to him. He's been, desperate to play, and he's played a big part in a lot of other games. But when I interviewed him on a FaceTime to try and convince him to come, I tried my best to talk him out of it, saying, look, it's not going to be easy, mate. I'm not guaranteeing you a minute of game time. You're not going to be the captain. I'm not going to throw rose petals at you. It's really hard. The 3 wingers I've got here are amazing. But if you want the challenge, that's it. And he's took the challenge on, and in fairness, he hasn't knocked on my door and said this isn't fair, because he knew that was what he's buying into. But he played Saturday, done really well, and he might well start again at the weekend. And players like that are brilliant, because they're great to train, they're great to be with, they're great in the group, they're not, toxic, they're not going to ruin, dilute the messaging or anything, and they're the people you want to be with. And you spend that much time, as you well know, like literally, if I'm not here, I'm thinking about them. And like, I'm texting them, you ask them, I text them all the time. And I still text players that I've worked with, and still, like, Jerry Yates scored for Blackpool the other night, I texted him congratulations. I'd still reach out to all the people, because they've all played a massive positive effect on my life. And who doesn't want to hang out with good people? So we're privileged here that hopefully come the summer, when we sign some players, we get them right, and they're good people, but really good players, but people who want to improve. And I think that's a type of personality that we need to get here.
Is that another key part for you as well? Honesty. Yeah. What's on all honesty with regards to what people buy into doing for you at this football club, and what you expect from them?
Yeah, well, I mean, every manager says they want honesty. And I like to think that I definitely give it to him. I may give it to him too much at times. And I still sugarcoat bad news. I'm not pretending I'm like this preacher or anything. But yeah, I do. You have to have honesty. You have to have the fact that, like, if someone's tightening up in training, they stick their hand up and go, "Gaff, I'm fatigued." Just go in. Do not take the risk of injury. And like, currently we've got everyone fit, so we've got 20 outfield players fit now, which sounds a lot, but it isn't really. So like, the honesty for that is important. The integrity is, if I speak to a player and say, what did you do yesterday? If I find out they've lied to me, they're done, because I just can't trust them.
What, one strike and you're out?
Well, yeah, virtually, yeah. Because there's no reason to lie, is there? If I've asked you what you've done with your family yesterday, and you said, "Oh, I went out with a couple of my mates, had a couple of beers in town," great, that's fine, as long as you perform in training and perform in games. But why would you lie? And I just think, if you lie once, or there's a trend, then I can't trust you on anything. Like, have you took the information on? Have you watched your clips? Yeah, I have, Gaffer. Well, unfortunately, I don't believe anything you say anymore. So I think trust is essential, and you have to trust each other on the pitch. If for example, the set piece at the weekend, if we do something and we intend to do this movement, then he's going to make that run. He has to trust that his teammate's done the block or done the fake, or the ball's going to go there. Trust is fundamental to a team ethic and success. So yeah, trust and good people, I would take over talent all day long.
You mentioned when we sat down here, there's a sofa just off camera where you talk to the players, and it seems to me as well, there's several layers in conversations when you get the chance to sit down with your good self, and that kind of mental gymnastics and emotional gymnastics. It's from what I've seen, and when you talk about talking to players or staff, that you get a real buzz out of, to make sure that the message is put across. You've said exactly what you want to say. There's no misconstrued of the clarity of the message at all.
I hope not, but you never know, do you? So how I'm talking to you now, how I think the conversations come across, it might have come across different to you. I don't know, do I?
Tell me how I think it's gone so far.
I think I've been great. No, I don't know. I just
say everyone's nodding.
Yeah. No, well, I've just been honest and candid, and sometimes I answer a question, I know that I forget what I'm answering because my brain's going like. Dun, 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 dun. So I definitely do that, but I do have conversation with lads, and I do know that I have to keep trying to say to them that, look, I know I talk a lot. Is there something I'm missing? Am I missing something in this conversation? They might say, look, Gaff, I'm just not happy about that. Okay, that's fine. But I always feel that whenever they leave the room, I always shake their hands, hug them, thank them for their attention, and like, just respect what I've said. I respect what you say. We don't have to agree. Like I said to you now, there's 20 outfield players who I'm going to have to squeeze into 11 positions and then get a few subs out of. So it isn't easy, but I just think if you come from a point of honesty, and sometimes they're not nice conversations, like tonight, I know if I'm dropping a couple tomorrow, I'll drive in, I'll think of nothing else. But I think that's become easier as time's gone by because I've always been honest and stuck by it. But I do enjoy them conversations, that's true. I do enjoy trying to help players. I do enjoy trying to help them as people because they're still young men. And if I think about myself when I was 21, 22, 23, I made some bad decisions, some good decisions, but some bad decisions. I didn't know everything. I don't know everything at 49, but I can definitely help the lads on certain things. And if you have a group that want to listen and want to improve, it makes your day a lot nicer.
The privilege of being able to speak to managers in and out of work over the course of a league season is one that I really do enjoy. One question that always comes to my mind, and it sounds slightly frivolous, to ask them whether you're talking to someone flying at the top of the league, whether you're talking to, I don't know, someone fighting for their lives, figuratively of course, down at the bottom, but is it fun?
Managing?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't call it fun. I don't know how to put it. I think, so I enjoy running. I don't enjoy running. That's not true. I enjoy finishing running. So I sort of enjoy the journey, but not really. It's a bit painful. But when I finish, I never regret that I've gone for a run. I never get in here and go, should never have done that. You know, you got that feeling. And it's a little bit like that in football management. There's certain days where you're running, but then when you finish at the end of the day, or you finish at the end of the season, or you get that win, you get that little bit of relief. I do enjoy certain parts. I didn't realise I'm not a control freak, but I do enjoy having control of things. So when I worked for 6 different managers as a fitness coach, there's certain things that managers done, and I thought, that doesn't sit with me well. I wouldn't have done that. That was brilliant. I didn't see the manager doing that. So there's certain things I've definitely picked up. But fun, there are aspects of it that are fun. There are certain, so for example, today, he probably won't think it's fun, but I did. When I walked into the canteen, all the staff were on the right and David McGoldrick's sitting on his own. So I thought, right, I'm going to go and sit on the players' table. Yeah. Now I know that every player that come in must have thought, oh no. It's like one of them prison movies when like the big guy sits down at a table, everyone gets on another table. So in my head that was fun, but I did sincerely enjoy the conversation with Didsy. So whether that's fun or enjoyment, I don't know. So I do enjoy parts of that. Match day is not fun. See, I mean, every time I shake hands with the opposition manager, and they'll probably tell you this, I always go, cannot wait for 5 o'clock. You know, like Hachu Renter goes 5 o'clock. That isn't fun during the game. Although there's aspects of it that are enjoyable because you think, wow, the team are playing well or that. But yeah, fun, I don't know. I think, and I don't know how other managers answer this, and I think managers out of work would say it's definitely fun because you have to come across really positive. But managers in work, I don't know if they say it's fun, but I think it's something that I will definitely miss. Now, I didn't think if you'd have interviewed me 4 years ago, 3 years ago, even 2 years ago, I don't think I'd have ever said I'd miss it. But I think I would miss it now, which is surprising because there are difficulties with the job there, but there's difficulties with every job, isn't there? And obviously the more you get paid, the more difficulties you get paid for the hassle, really. But yeah, I think it has become more fun, but not full fun. I'm on a soda. Yeah, I'm on a soda drink. Yeah, I'm not full fat Coke. I'm still like Coke Zero. So I've come from water. I'm on fizzy pop. But I haven't gone the full whack. So yeah, so it is more enjoyable, definitely. But I wouldn't ever class football management as fun. You mentioned about working under different managers at Rotherham in your capacity as a fitness coach. Yeah. Was there ever any counsel sought by them? Was there ever any inkling? Would they say, looking back, of a potential boss in the making? What, they thought I'd be a boss? Yeah. Only Kenny Jackett, really. I think if you spoke to Ronnie Moore, he might have thought possibly, just because I was a thinker and a good talker, maybe. But I never had an interest in coaching, so I always thought I'd go down a different career path. But I remember the day that Kenny Jackett left, and I met him in the car park. I didn't meet him; we just walked into each other really. He said, "Look, Warnie, I'm off," which was a bit of a shock. And shook his hand, obviously, and he just sort of said, "Look, they'll ask you to be caretaker." Blah, blah, blah. And he says, "Look, if you get the opportunity to take it, I think you should take it. I think you'd be really good." And I went, "I've got absolute zero interest." And he went, "Look, you get the game. You're an intelligent guy. You'll get your message across well. I think you should do it." So he was probably the only one who ever said it, but no one else had ever needed to say it. I don't think I would look at my fitness coach now, although he's very good, my head of condition, and go, "I think one day you'd be a football manager." It's not something that then conversation never have.
And it's not a traditional trajectory, is it?
No. And in fairness, if I'd have trained for it and I'd always wanted to do it, I probably would have had conversations with managers and I'd have been more interested. So, for example, I've been in many meetings with players and managers where they've gone a bit ugly, and I've been in the room. And if I had an inkling or a desire to be a football manager, when the player would have left the room, I'd have said to the manager, like, "Oh, Gaffer, well, how come you said that? Because you knew he was riled. What made you rile him even more? Or what made you think to say that?" And I would have tried to pick up points as I went along, but I never thought of it like that. I just subconsciously picked things up. Like, ironically, I picked things up off Ronnie Moore when I played for him, but Russell Slade was a big thing. He managed completely different to anyone I've ever seen. He just treated people or treated me as a senior pro, and all the senior pros with us, like Nathan Jones and Terry Skiverton and that, just treated us like men first and not footballers, which was pretty empowering for me, and that's something that I've always took with me.
You mentioned about your relationship with your head of conditioning, your fitness coach. In my memory as a footballer a very long time ago, and you talk about people's specific roles and paying respect to people's specific roles, and I'm sure you're acutely aware of this, because when you'd see the manager come over and almost lose interest in what the fitness coach is, "Right, lads, that's enough, come on."
Yeah.
And it never failed, probably, that it speaks to my sense of humour, to tickle me that as you ran off, he's trudging around picking his cones and picking his ladders up, chuntering away to himself. I've had managers say in the past about warm-ups, "I don't believe in warm-ups," to a group that's warming up and being warmed up by a fitness coach. I presume things have changed somewhat, but I bet that's a relationship that out of all the relationships in this building, you know exactly how that feels.
Yeah, and it's quite an empowering role. Not ironically, but like with a fitness coach role, it's a great role, and it's a personality role more than anything. So, for example, if you were out of the squad and I was your fitness coach, I sort of need me and you to be mates. I don't really want to run you. You don't really want to run, but we both know you have to run, and I have to cajole you, don't I? And like fitness coaches, are the conduit between the staff and the players. So they sometimes leak information to the players with or without my knowledge, but the players then get trust, and then sometimes I get things the other way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But they're essential. And in regards to how we want to play and how we have played, the condition of the players is crucial. And if you think that football isn't about running, then well, I'm not saying you're watching the wrong sport, but the best teams in the world run. If you watch Napoli, wow. If you watch Man City, wow. So they run. So my relationship with my fitness coach is really good. And the funny thing was, when I first sort of passed the mantle and it had nothing to do with me, that was difficult. Because I'll be like, "You sure that's all we're doing today?" And he'd be like, "Yeah, Gaff, I think," and I remember laughing with Rich and I'd leave the room and I think, "We've been a bit soft, mate. We've been a bit soft." So that killed me. Whereas now it's all right. And now I get days where...
There's distance now. You can leave him to it. Okay.
And in fairness, I've said it to a loads of times.
Yeah.
He's better than I was.
Right.
They're just more intelligent. They don't have the difference is, and this is what we possibly give them, they don't have the mindset of a footballer. So they are an athlete, but they're a football and athlete. They're sort of a different breed. So look, I used to be obsessed with running. I could run all day, so to speak. But tell me what I'm doing. Whereas some fitness coaches goes, "I'm not telling you. Why do you need to know?" Because we need to.
Yeah.
It's just we need to. If you're doing
it's human nature.
It is. If I say to you today, we're doing 400 metres, mate, you'll be all right. I'm not best pleased about it. How many? And I say, "I'm not telling you." I've lost you already. If I say we're doing 6, but really we're doing 4, and I can lie to you on that. That's fair.
4 for cash.
Yeah. If we're getting really good. But the best thing is when they see... if anyone's suspended or coming back from injury or need a little bit more, if they ever see me walking out there with the magic wheel, the joy of that gives me fun. That I know the rest of the lads are going, "Oh my God, Gaffer's taking you after this. There's going to be trouble." So it's more about me than them. So that's the fun part of my job.
And the thing is as well, we're talking about managers now, not the manager of yesteryear that perhaps has maybe played a bit of football, maybe let himself go a little bit. We're talking to a manager who's in terrific shape.
Thank you.
Might I say?
Yeah,
so
it's the best part of the interview.
So I always finish somewhere with a compliment.
Yeah, good. I like it, mate. I like it.
There's, like you say, you're asking of your players what you would ask of yourself.
Yeah.
You're setting a standard physically, mentally, and emotionally that you expect people to come up to and maybe go beyond.
Yeah, well, that's a good way to look at it. I mean, we always run every match day, all my staff run, and in fairness to Hammy and Andy, my goalie coach, they're not like brilliant runners, but it's like a bit of superstition. But also, if I'm asking the players to run through pain on a Saturday, then we should. We train every day virtually, and me personally, when I was a player, if a fit manager stood at the front and said, "I want you to do this, this, and this," or someone who was 5 stone overweight, I'd be thinking, look, you're preaching to me about, values and,
sacrifice and discipline.
And I'm looking at you thinking, oh. So the lads have already asked, because we'll obviously take the group away pre-season and wherever we go, but they're already terrified because I keep getting asked the question through staff, like, what's the gaffer like pre-season? And we run every morning, get up at 6:30 and run every morning. But I'll run. They just have to finish in front of me, which again is joyful because I go really quick.
I was going to say, do you take it steady or do you go for it?
Well, I like to pretend I was still a good runner, but I'm not. But I do. I don't go slow. But I always think that I'm up there with you. I'm up there training with you in the morning. I'll be there for the first session. I'm not that guy who sits in the office on his phone. We're always, all of us are out on the grass at every single session. And I think maybe the lads respect it, they might not. I have to sometimes join in. I joined in the other day. My days. I joined in and I thought this was going all right. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm having a heart attack. And I had to check my watch, I'm thinking, 178. I've only joined in for 2 minutes. But there is sacrifice to success, isn't there? And I say to the lads all the time, I know this is cheesy, but winning isn't easy. I'm not saying being mid-table is easy either, but it isn't. But if you want to win, you just have to do more than the opposition. It has to hurt a little bit more. You might have to run a little bit harder. But if you want to be successful, it does hurt. And you have to accept that. However, if you don't want to be that person, then you're not at the right club. Like we want success here. Every club wants success, I know. But we do try and drive standards all the time. And, them looking after themselves, training hard, doing the right things, plays a massive part to their talent to make us successful.
Speaking about running in the race, it's getting towards that time of the season where things really do start shaping up, don't they? 5th in League One, teams to chase, teams snapping at your heels.
Yeah.
Is there a set definition of success and failure this season for you with Derby? Does it have a specific word attached to it?
Yeah, I mean, if we didn't reach the playoffs, I would regard it as a failure. I mean, it's probably not good to say that publicly because then there'll be some fan waiting for me outside the last game going, right, you said it was failure, hand your car keys in and get yourself off. But realistically, we've put ourselves in a good position. If we were now 9th and we just missed out, you'd be like, well, that's a good effort. But we've been in it for a bit now and we'd like to finish in the playoffs at worst. So that would be regarded as semi-success. But then once you're in it, you're not in it just to spend 2 extra weeks away from your family. You're in it to win it. So I would find that if we're then in it and we don't get to Wembley and win it, then I would regard that as semi-failure, but something to build on, but still failure. Because there's you either win or you don't you? And that's the reality of it. So with 10 games to go, it could go any way. You could win them all and absolutely cruise it. Very unlikely. Hopefully you don't lose them all, and somewhere in between might be enough to get us in the playoffs. But then, which is evident, that whichever 3 teams, if we were fortunate, joined us, they're all 3 teams that have had as good a season as us and will fancy themselves as much as us, and it will be a big ask. But so I think anything below playoffs would be not abject failure, but disappointing failure.
It's stressful, it's time consuming, parts of it you love, parts of it are a bit more job like. What do you do to switch off, Paul? What do you do for fun? Can you switch off? For fun, I don't know what I do for fun. There's not I spend time with my family's fun, I suppose. That sounds awful. Are you different in here than you are with them at home?
Not really. I'm just saying I don't think I have a work face. Obviously, conversations I have, my son and daughter would probably say I speak to them like that. I don't know. But when I'm at home, I'm just very normal. I get massive enjoyment of drinking coffee, right? And that sounds boring, but that's the truth. You are what you are.
Are you a connoisseur then?
Not a connoisseur.
There's no instant stuff in the Warne household.
No, that's not. Yeah, that's true. But then I'm not a connoisseur. There's people who say to me about this one company, if I drive and get a coffee on the way home, they'll go, "Oh, you can't drink that. That tastes of burnt coffee. It tastes fine to me." So you like what you like, don't you? So, but generally, I just like going out for walks with my dog and my wife and just chat, and then just like everybody else, watch Ted Lasso, chill out when I can. My favourite thing in the world.
Is that a fair reflection on a manager's job, Ted Lasso?
Well, I quite like him. I quite like. In fairness, there is a. I'm going to come across horrendous here, but there is an undercurrent of that story which I quite like. That you don't have to be a typical lunatic to get success. There are different ways to manage, so I do like it. But the biggest joy for me is cinema. I love going to cinema because you can turn your phone off, no guilt, and I text like the staff going, right, I'm going into the film at 2 or whatever. I know I'm not going to get any, although it isn't stressless. If there's a 15-year-old kid chatting, then that's, oh my missus has to grab me and go, don't say anything.
Are you one to pull them up on that?
I can't bear it. I haven't come to the cinema to listen to you, mate. No. Or you get your phone out. That's another problem. I mean, I used to be the one who would walk to the steward and pretend I went to the toilet and go, can you have a look on row 3? But then I walk back in again and think that's shameful. So all I do now is a lot of staring, but they don't even notice me. So I don't really do anything. I just moan about it, really. But I do enjoy going to cinema. Turn your phone off. Escapism for 2-3 hours is joyful for me. And that's probably the best moment of peace I get. I really enjoy that, and I do enjoy the odd game of golf when the weather's nice. I can't play in the winter. What
about your selection of bobble hats though? That'll get you through the winter playing
golf. Well, that
right?
is true, but I don't hit it well enough, long enough. So if I get like a thin or something, you're like, it's game over. It's game over. So I'm not good enough to play enough. But yeah, so films really, mate. And just turning your phone off is a lovely thing. But films January, February, not very good, are they?
No.
Most of the good releases are in the summer, which is a nightmare because that's when the agents phone you. So just walking the dog and just and reading. I do enjoy reading.
What do you see yourself doing in 20 years' time? The same thing?
Oh, 20 years?
20 years?
Nah, 20 years, not the same thing. No chance. How old will I be? I'll be 69.
Just turning 50 trouble you? Is it on your mind? Is it something that you're bothered about, not bothered about?
What, age?
No, turning 50.
Nah, not bothered, not at all, no. I mean, the only thing that bothers me is my missus is going to throw me a surprise party that I keep saying to her under no circumstances.
Well, it's funny you should say that because...
A one-man band comes walking in. No, the age don't bother me at all. No, I'm fine with it. I'm not saying it. I would make the joke of you as young as but my wife's older than me, so that's not even funny. So, no, age doesn't bother me. I'm just looking forward to... trying to get success here. I know that sounds cheesy, but I'm looking forward to a summer where we can rebuild a team for whichever league and just enjoy some time away and some sun because you miss the sun, don't you? So that's the thing I'm looking forward to the most. And
managing the same team as Brian Clough did must be a pretty cool thing to think.
Yeah, that is quite. That does numb me a little bit. That of all the things, like my friends back home when I took this job and it all happened a bit quick and they were like, "Wow, you managed the same place." And when I drive in Sir Brian Clough Way, it's just that is something else. And it will always be something when I am 69 and I am a scout or something involved in football. I can't see me doing that. But something to do with sport or anything, or it might, whatever. But it will always be something I think, wow, I managed that club for that period, for that time, and it was a massive honour, as it was a massive honour to manage Rotherham. But and Ronnie Moore won't mind me saying this, but Ronnie Moore is probably the greatest manager Rotherham ever had. Brian Clough is another level, so it's been a massive honour, and hopefully it will continue for many a year.
How do you think this conversation's gone?
Okay, lengthy, but I kept
Managers
thinking...
that busy in an afternoon, are they?
No, not lengthy. Well, an hour. Not lengthy in a bad way, but there's a few questions. So I get interviewed weekly, obviously with Rams TV, right? And I always know when the last question is. So I always feel like I elongate my answer and then he sort of nods to say, well done, that's it. And I think I've done that for 4 questions where this is the natural end to the conversation. So I go like that and then you go, and? Oh, wow. So generally I think it's gone okay. I've enjoyed it. It's quite cathartic in a weird way. And it makes me look at things from a different angle because you end up just looking at it like your job as a date. So if we now flipped it and this was off record and I interviewed you and sort of said, what do you think of your job and all that? it makes you sort of think. You don't think about it consciously on a daily basis. You just do it, and then when you get asked questions that you don't get asked daily or weekly, it makes you think differently. So, yeah. So I still leave thinking it's an honour to run this club, but we want success and we are hungry for it.
It's been fun from my point of view.
Oh, good.
But I'll let you go.
Thanks, mate. Thank you very much.
Pleasure, mate.
Thank you.